Welcome to the latest episode of The Independent. I'm Pete Sampson, joined as always by my co-host Matt Fortuna, and today Tim Murray, a reoccurring guest. This is like a regular guest on a sitcom. As we're going to preview Miami, talk a little bit about the season. As a reminder to our listeners, we will go Wednesday at noon Eastern during the season for our preview shows. If you want to hop on and ask questions, this assumes that Notre Dame starts playing on Saturdays again, which will happen, and my AT&T fiber internet is up and working, which was not this week. So sorry about the delay on that. But Tim, Matt, Tim, we'll start with you as the guest. How are you feeling about Sunday night?
Terrified, as I always am. This is just such a massive game like it was last year and like it has been pretty much every year. I mean, I guess Navy, you could argue, wasn't a massive game, but still it was the first game of the college football season. But Marcus Freeman and year number 4 and a massive challenge out of the gates here with a true road environment. So, look, we'll obviously get into it. The storyline of the offseason is the quarterback competition. For me, guys, and I texted both of you before the line dropped. So I did get the under 53.5 before the massive move a couple weeks ago. That's my expectation. I don't think it's 23-13 like last year, which was a dead under game. But as long as CJ Carr can avoid turnovers, I think Notre Dame should win this game with a question mark at the wide receiver position for Miami. And a strength at the secondary. But look, it's a road game. It's going to be a juiced up environment. It's not going to be 2017, but it's going to be loud down there at Miami. And history is not on the side of the Irish. But once again, this is a different team. This is a different coaching staff. But as I always do, I don't know what are the 6 or 7 shades of of getting ready for a Notre Dame big game, but I've gotten to the point where I'm like, I hate it. This is going to be awful. And hopefully we don't turn the ball over on the first possession and everything goes to you know what. But no, I'm excited, man. I'm going to be there. I know you guys will be there.
I can tell.
Yeah. What'd you say?
I can tell you're excited.
Yeah. So we'll see, man. We'll see. It's I could talk myself into so many different scenarios of how this game plays out, but there's one. I want to throw this to you guys. This is more deep cut, but there's a football game being played at Hard Rock the day before.
I did not know that.
Yeah. No, I didn't.
Howard and Florida A&M are playing on the same field the day before. I'm like, really? What are we doing here? We're gonna have a. Could we have a messed up field? Is it gonna rain? So that was one thing that was brought to my attention. I'm like, oh great. I don't want to see turf flying everywhere with a game played 28 hours prior to the kickoff of this one.
Well, so they have the championship there. I think they have World Cup matches there coming up in the spring or summer. Wow, that's busy. Notre Dame's got the country concert the week before their first home game, but you at least got 7 days.
They play on turf.
Yeah, they play on turf. Shouldn't be that big of a deal.
That too. Tim, just listening to your emotional inner dialogue.
Roller coaster.
You're going to be an awesome post-game guest from the stands, win or lose, late into Sunday night, early Monday morning. Happy to be back. Happy to have you back. For the record, it was not me collapsing. It was not my internet collapsing, which happens a lot more often than it does here. It was Pete's internet collapsing. AT&T will not be sponsoring the Independent in 2025, but I'm happy we got this lined up, and we will be every Wednesday at noon Eastern time live taking your questions. So thanks to all who are tuning in right now. Tim, great hat. I guess I've been pronouncing Hawaii wrong my entire life because I've listened to your pods repeatedly the last few weeks. It's Hawaii. How was that trip, and how do you think that will compare to Hard Rock, where it's going to be 90 degrees and possibly thunderstorming Sunday night?
So it's funny. I was looking at the comments on my podcast, the VSiN College Football Betting Podcast, and we joked that we need to do a drinking game every time I bring up Notre Dame. But now the new one, as someone pointed out, is when I say Hawaii to make that the new drinking
mark
game. I don't know if I'm saying it right. We have so many awesome people that we met out there, and there's so many different pronunciations. Our main sponsor for our trip was a jewelry store called Nahoku, and I kept messing that up the whole time. So the trip was amazing, man. It was really great. Getting an up close and personal view of Notre Dame's final opponent, I'm going to go on a limb and say that should be a relatively easy one.
I was going to ask, yeah.
Yeah, that is a very, very bad football team. And Ben Goldbranson lost to Notre Dame 40-8, I want to say, in the Sun Bowl a couple of years ago. Could rival that score. We'll see if they get better. They basically run a very vanilla, we're just going to run the ball. And my gut tells me, guys, the 2 scoring drives that they had of length against Hawaii, probably not going to be able to do that against Notre Dame, which is just run the ball right up the middle every single time. But the trip was awesome. Very unique setting, obviously, out there. I don't know how many people listening in were at the 97 Notre Dame Hawaii game. I was 23-22, and very different, obviously, there. So, by the way, I do have hair. I just
responded. Don't worry. You're covered.
But, yeah, it was awesome. Very cool. And we'll see, about the health of their quarterback, Micah Alahado, Hawaii's quarterback, that is. But very unique setting out there on the island at their makeshift stadium. They did get good news. It sounds like Aloha Stadium's going to be back in a couple of years.
Yeah, Stanford football, not good. That was a long-winded way of saying Stanford is bad.
Yeah. That was what I kind of expected. And I was just wondering, where is there anyone on this team that is going to be a difference, man? I mean, Micah Ford is okay as a running back, but if that's your offense week, whatever, against Notre Dame, good luck, man.
Yeah. Well, it's a good early scout. Miami, a lot more bringing to
Miami,
the table.
I expect a little bit more from.
Yeah.
Another ACC
a lot more
team.
to the table.
Yeah.
At pretty much every position. I think this is our first pod. I mean, certainly with you, where Carr, since Carr's announcement, he came in for interviews on Wednesday night, and I think I probably had mentioned this on a previous pod. When he came in for media availability on the first Saturday of training camp, I thought he looked in some ways nervous and tight, and it was strange. It didn't feel like the confident gunslinging bravado that he'd been described as. And then when he came in yesterday, you felt all of that. It felt like you were talking to a returning starter, not a first-time starter. So it's what are you guys most interested to sort of see from Carr on Sunday night? And I'm also I'm interested what we don't see from Carr. Do we see a guy cutting loose and taking shots down the field? I feel like we probably will, but how Notre Dame strikes a balance between trust your arm, you're the quarterback this program's been waiting for a long time, with could you just hand the ball off to number 4 and let's just keep going? That I think it's an interesting dynamic on Sunday night with the offense.
Yeah, I'm curious your perspective, Matt, but I would look at it as playing it a little bit closer to the vest, maybe a couple opportunities to lull the Miami defense to sleep. Obviously, I would anticipate, Corey Heatherman in his first year to kind of throw a little bit of the kitchen sink at the Irish here and try to confuse CJ Carr. And whether the reports were true or not, I mean, look, everyone said, and Pete, you were reporting it, others were reporting it, there were interceptions in preseason camp. And I'm sure Miami's defense is going to want to try to bait a first-time starter into making mistakes. So, yeah, I think it's really fascinating to see what Mike Denbrock ultimately decides to do with his opening drive, with that opening script, because they do have an upgrade at the wide receiver position. And I think, guys, the obvious X factors are going to be Jeremiah Love and Malachi Fields. Look, if Eli Raridan is going to live up to this preseason hype, he's going to get involved a lot, right? Who's the best friend of a young quarterback? It's a tight end. So I do wonder, and I know you guys are partnered up with DraftKings, I wonder if Eli Raridan, looking at any of his player props could be something of interest, because if you're CJ Carr, does your first quick glance go to Eli Raridan, or is it more of a Will Pauling out of the slot? I'd be very curious to see if they do kind of some quick hitters just to make him feel comfortable. And then maybe as the game goes on, then you open it up and try to go for the kill shot later on against Miami.
Yeah. And importantly, I need to know AJM, Pete's loyal mailbag reader. Has he been stalking Jeremiah Love's EA Sports game? Has Jeremiah Love switched his quarterback choice to CJ Carr? after going with Kenny Menchie preseason. I don't know. That's the ultimate X factor in all of this. But no, I'm with you. I mean, I remember the day it got announced, I texted someone in the building. I was like, well, are you surprised by this? Because you sound like you already said, who cares? Just hand the ball off to number 4, which I think is kind of the guiding philosophy of a lot of this. But I will say, and if you could take like a step back into like the 30,000 foot view, which is very hard to do on game week, I think ultimately, even though this was not uttered out loud, like they went with CJ Carr because they think he gives them the best chance to win a national championship, not necessarily the best chance to beat Miami. This could be the same things. They could not be the same things. But like, no one wants this. I'm not predicting this to happen. There's a world in which Notre Dame starts 0-2 and still makes the playoff. Like, I'm a lot less concerned about how they're in, Tim. If they are on a 10-game winning streak, that committee is not saying we're keeping Notre Dame, that brand, out. They're not. No matter
if
how
they had lost to USC, they would have been out at 10-2 last year.
But last year's schedule was a lot harder, and you can't tell me last year doesn't play some.
No, I think it's fair. I'll just say this. I know, because I know all the players are listening right now. Don't start 0-2. How about that? Let's do that. Because if they go 10-2 with a win over Miami or Texas A&M, I agree with you. If they go 10-2 with their best win being USC, Boise State probably, or USC, or Boise. I'm like, yeah, and I don't know. We'll see what Boise State brings to the table as we record this now. They play tonight, so we'll see. But yeah, I would recommend not starting 0-2.
Yeah, as would I. I just 10-game winning streak Notre Dame TV. They're not leaving them out.
Yeah, I just like
what do you last year against A&M, in part because of that schedule, I think it was like a grit your teeth, don't turn the ball over, survival of the fittest. We'll have a little bit more in the tank in the fourth quarter than they will, and that's exactly how it played out. I don't know if it's that simple, right? Like, I think you want to try to open things up a little bit more. Miami's defense will be better. I don't know how good they will be. I would argue, and Will Stein will have an argument against me, understandably so, these are maybe the two best offense coordinators in college football Sunday night, in Shannon Dawson and Mike Denbrock. I still think it will go under and will be a low-scoring game, but I don't think it'll be as conservative as, say, the Texas A&M game plan was last year.
No, I think that, and Mike Denbrock talked about this on Wednesday night when he was in, because somebody asked him to compare and contrast where knowledge and sort of understanding the offense, CJ Carr now versus Riley Leonard going into week 1 at A&M, and he's like, oh, Carr, 100% Carr. Like, Carr has a better handle of this offense than Leonard did a year ago. You know, he's been here for more than a year. He didn't miss spring practice, didn't miss some of summer. That's all really significant. It's the question more with Carr is like, do you get out there and not freak out? Do you bounce back from throwing a pick? Because I am oddly confident he will throw at least one interception and he will handle it just fine. We've all watched Notre Dame games where the quarterback throws an interception and things start to fall apart from there. Unless it's like the first pass of the game and it's returned for a touchdown, I think Notre Dame will be okay with at least one turnover on Sunday night. But yeah, Carr is a confident, seemingly relaxed guy going into this. And some of it is, I think, his personality. I think some of it is just like, look, as soon as I stop practicing against Leonard Moore and Christian Gray and Adon Schuler every day in practice, like, practice has got a lot more fun. And as Tim pointed out, I think the wide receiver room is, especially at the top 4, big up from where it was every other time Marcus Freeman has coached a game.
Well, and I'll say this, and I think you made this point, Pete, a couple weeks ago, which is the goal of, there were 2 goals this preseason. Number 1, figure out your quarterback. Number 2, keep Jeremiah Love healthy. Like, how much did Jeremiah Love take the wear and tear in preseason? And I thought the point you made kind of made me in my car a couple of weeks ago be like, oh, that's actually a good point. Like, okay, you're going up against arguably the best secondary in college football every single day in Leonard Moore and, Adon Schuler and the pieces that they have back there. And then if you're Mike Denbrock, you're trying to figure out who your quarterback's going to be. So are you going to say in 2 weeks into camp, hey, CJ, hand it off to Jadarian, hand it off to Jeremiah Love? No, you're going to try to see what those two guys have. So I do wonder, and maybe this is the rose-colored glasses that I'm wearing right now, but like, are the interceptions, I don't want to say being overblown, because, hearing about red zone turnovers makes me want to rip my hair out, which I do have. Once again, I have hair. But I do wonder, guys, were the interceptions part of playing against arguably the best secondary in college football all camp and not giving the ball to 4 and 22 because you want to keep those guys fresh for maybe a 16-game season?
I mean, it's both for sure. And Carr even referenced this on Wednesday night. Like, you learn when you're throwing to the boundary and Leonard Moore's over there, like, maybe you shouldn't make that throw. And then he was like, but I have confidence in Malachi Fields. Don't take this the wrong way. That's what camp was for. I think also Carr, I sensed and I hesitate to like psychoanalyze our media availability here, but like I sensed Carr was just like much freer yesterday than he was in camp. And he admitted like there were times in camp where you make a mistake and your reaction was like, oh shit, I just lost the job. Like he is not going to play that way on Sunday night. And he said, since it's been announced, like I'm the guy, like he can go out there and he doesn't have to worry about looking over his shoulder, which is interesting because I feel like once he was named quarterback, I got a lot of questions of like how long the leash is going to be on the guy. And I think it's going to be quite long, frankly. I don't think they go into this game looking for a quick trigger. I think they'll let Carr go out and like probably play through some mistakes, at least, as long as the game is kind of staying on schedule.
Yeah, I don't think you can. I think that's how you have to operate. Like I look at this as this is his job. He's not going to lose it with 1 or 2 bad games. Now I will say like it's different kinds of pressures, but you hear about that pressure of the competition, how it might have gotten to him at practice. And you worry a little bit about the pressure of playing at Miami in that environment for your first game. Friend of both of our pods, Stanford Steve, I was listening to him, I think on Rusilla's show this week. And he said he thought no roster group in the country may have upgraded as much as Notre Dame's receiving group has this year. We've heard variations of that year to year. I'm very much a believe it when I see it kind of guy. But yeah, I think it's very telling that Will Pauling's already a captain, already an oar with the best receiver on the team, Jaden Greathouse, on the depth chart for whatever that is worth coming into this year. So I do think we'll see more of a egalitarian offensive attack, if you will. And the other part of it too, and Pete, if I could plug your story here, you had a great story on Jeremiah Love and just what a different dude he really is, for especially among superstars. And yet following that team as closely as we all did last year, I still like stopped in my tracks when I read the line that said he only averaged 10 carries a game last year. Like isn't that
bizarre?
Unacceptable, right? Like with a player that good. And I know you want to keep him ready for the NFL, but if all else fails, you've got that. And there's hopefully a lot of mileage left in that tank because he's probably the best running back in the country.
I'm so interested to sort of see, what his usage rate is. Cause I talked to Juwan Sider for that Love story. He said, 18 to 25 touches in big games. That's great. Let's do that. That would be, if he hit the 18, the low end of that would be a career high for touches in a game. So imagine Jeremiah Love essentially doubling the times he touches the ball in a game and what that would do to Notre Dame's offense. Like that is theater. He's returning kickoffs. Like I think they're going to go for it with him, especially Miami A&M, and not worry about like how many touches are too many touches. We want to keep the tread on the tire. Like, no, you're just going for it. And that other than just seeing Carr, out there in a real game situation, how much they use Love is fascinating to me because every time he touches the ball is like a take your breath away moment potentially.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of like remind me of Notre Dame. What was it? Ohio State, that Zeke Elliott. I think I'm remembering this correctly. He only had like two really big runs, but they were enormous runs, right? And Notre Dame has that with Jeremiah Love. I mean, I know there are Indiana fans still say, well, if you take away the 98-yard run, it was a different game. Well, you can't take away a 98-yard run because that changed everything. You threw a pick and he goes 98 yards. And you saw that so much last year in different moments. So I want to go back real quickly to the wide receiver room because, you're right, Matt. We have fallen for this before, but I don't know if it was one of you guys or just someone else. It dawned on me, like, no knock on Chris Mitchell, but he was an FIU receiver, and now Notre Dame gets the leading receiver from Wisconsin, albeit a 5-7 football team a year ago. But there's familiarity, obviously, with the coaching staff, and he gets elected captain, which I think all of us were like, whoa, okay, all right, this is good. And then you get Malachi Fields, who was a guy that, it's funny when you think back to Notre Dame playing Virginia, and clearly the coaching staff was like, I want that guy, that one right there. Yep. I want him on my roster. So it does feel like those two guys are better than what they brought in a year ago from the portal. And then in theory, Faison's going to take a step in the right direction. Jaden Greathouse, tremendous finish to the season. So yeah, once again, on paper, this wide receiver core, I don't know how good it is to recent years. I know Pete and Matt, you've talked about, I think it's fair to compare Fields to what, like Miles Boykin of was that?
Yeah,
18?
that was Ian Book's comparison. So I'm going to take Ian Book's word for it. Yeah, not Chase Claypool, but closer to Miles Boykin. And I think significantly better than Bo Collins was last year. I think it'd be interesting to go back and look at Notre Dame's starting lineup of receivers from every opener under Marcus Freeman. Is there a receiver in any of those groups who would start on this team? I would probably argue not.
Bo made my Giants. That's all I'll say. And I think Boykin got cut, which was surprising from the Bears. Audric Estime also got cut. Very big surprise.
Yeah, picked up by the Eagles, I think.
Oh, did he? Okay, I'm sure.
As a practice squad.
Interesting. Marcus Freeman, I think, alluded to but the history at Miami. I think they're 0 for their last 6. I know they're 0 for the last 5. Pete, our friend Bill Trocchi from Sporting News.
Yep, 0 for 6. Last win, 1977.
Well, last 5, you know what they've averaged in their average points per game in those 5?
It was like 8.2.
Pete or Tim, you have a guess?
I think I've seen the answer. I know they're 0-6 ATS, so I think they're I think they've gotten outscored by like 16 a game or something.
The last 5 games at Miami, they've averaged 5 points per game.
Hold on. I have a prop I want to show you guys. Hold on.
This is going to be like they're over
this
under.
Guy coaching?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we're holding up a little Jerry Faust Sports Illustrated. I'm going to make it. Spoiler alert.
If he's not coaching, I like the chances a little bit better.
Hey, it's Yes I Curse. He had a chance if not for the cover.
Yeah. By the way, since we have Tim Murray, a betting aficionado here, these are 4 over-unders for receiving yards of Notre Dame's players on Sunday night. And you tell me over or under. Malachi Fields, 39.5.
Over.
I feel like one catch, you're getting over.
Jeremiah Love, 15.5.
That's a curveball. I would stay away from it because, I think in our minds, well, my mind, as I'm a fan, you guys are actually, media members, but as a fan, I'm like, yes, he's definitely going over that, but I don't know. I want him to go over that, but I don't know. I would stay away from that. I would, as a fan, hope that he goes over, but I don't know.
Jordan Faison, 30.5.
I would take his receptions before I would take his yards.
And the last one, Jaden Greathouse, 32.5.
Over.
I feel like
they're not all going over.
So no, they're not all going over. But Fields and Greathouse, to me, I look at those and be like, man, those have got to go over.
Yeah, I mean, if we can get another cornerback to fall at Hard Rock Stadium, we're definitely going over for Jaden Greathouse, right?
By the way,
it's probably because that game with Howard the night before.
Miami football's Twitter account got community noted because of that game. Do you guys see that?
Yes, that was amazing.
I missed this. What happened?
Readers had context like a champion today.
They had pictures of the 2017 game. It was like last time Notre Dame was in the stadium, it didn't go so well for something to that effect. And they got community noted. It's like, actually, last time they're in the stadium, they beat Penn State in the semis. You do know, I'm sure we've all talked about this off air at some point, but you do know what wrong. Were any of you ever told the pregame story of what happened at Miami in 2017?
I mean, what didn't go wrong? I mean,
everything went wrong, but
the bus. Somebody threw something at the bus that I think spiderwebbed the windshield. And then you
maybe that has a direct correlation to what
I
happened on
doubt
the
that
field.
like Mike Elko's hot mic had a whole lot to do with it. But that
The
was
turnover
fun.
train. What did Elko say? Something like
It was
leave the
like they
turnover
can have
train
the
or
chain.
something?
I want a effing ring.
Which, and I've put this out there before, and I believe it to be true because I don't really believe in university presidents when it comes to higher education or athletic. I was told point blank he had an interview lined up to be a head coach somewhere, and the president saw that and said, "I don't want a guy who talks like that leading my football program," which is hilarious to me for a gazillion reasons, especially since he's had himself a nice career. But yeah, that gives you a sense of who makes the decisions in college sports. But no, what happened there, and again, maybe it's a direct correlation of what happened on the bus. They're warming up. Brandon Wimbush gets the yips. Was compared to me as like Chuck Knobloch or any of those famous baseball players who've gone through it. And he turns to Brian Kelly and says, "I can't make that throw," which was like a 5-yard out throw. And this was right before the game. And Brian Kelly essentially says, "Okay, well, we got to burn half the playbook right before kickoff. That's great." And someone who talked to Brian Kelly while walking off the field with him said, "I didn't see that coming." And Brian said, "I did because of what happened pregame with the quarterback."
Oof. I've not heard that.
Yeah.
It's not. I could see it. It's probably as good an explanation.
I think it's a perfectly not reasonable is not the right word, but I can make sense of it when I hear it like that.
Yeah. Not a good
It
evening.
was it Equinemius St. Brown that was wide open for a touchdown on the first drive?
Yes, that was, and I don't know somebody talked to Mark Richt, and Mark Richt admitted like if they hit that throw, I feel like it's an actual football game, opposed to a rave for 3 hours, which like maybe not, but it was interesting to hear someone recount Rick saying like the vibe of the place changes, which I think. Look, it's not going to be as loud as it was in 17. The game's not sold out, which is like kind of hard for me to get my head around, but it's not.
Really?
Yeah, you
That's
could
crazy.
go and buy like 6 tickets on the 50-yard line in the upper deck.
Oh my god.
Like you could hit the ticket max. So it's not going to be the same thing. There isn't the pent-up demand for Notre Dame to coming to Miami as there was in 2017, because at that point that was their first trip at Miami since the 1989 game, which essentially ended the series. Notre Dame is much better constructed now than they were then. And that Miami team, I feel like that Miami team had some like 2012 Notre Dame vibes to it, where it was just like, wow, it's all coming together. This is awesome. Everything is a party all the time. Like, this is not going to feel like that. I think it's just going to feel like a road game. I don't even think it's going to feel like Kyle Field last year.
No,
I think it will feel just like a regular road game.
Now, if TJ Carr throws a pick on the opening drive, like that's what or early, I don't have to say opening drive, but you give the fan base a little something to get juiced up about. But no, I don't. It was a who's who at that game. Ed Reed was there.
Warren Sapp down on the sideline.
Game day.
The turnover
was there.
chain was like birthed that year, and it was a thing. That was back when it was cool. Like now everyone does
that night.
Yes.
It never got any better than that.
Absolutely peaked that night. It's not going to be like A&M. I mean, it can't be like A&M. It's not as big, and there isn't the pent up, demand that there's been for 20 years or whatever it was since they last played down there, or 30 years, I should say. But I do think it will be as good of a Miami home environment as you'll see this year. I know they play Florida later in September, but for whatever that's worth, I know the empty stadium picks meme pretty much starts and ends with Miami at Hard Rock Stadium, because if they're not good, people aren't going to those games. But they do come out.
USC at an early Friday night kickoff is a good one too.
USC
or anything involving Stanford, which is way more Stanford talk on this pod than I was expecting.
You got me completely off track. It'll be a good environment. It won't be 2017. Is my point.
No, definitely not.
We got a great broadcast crew, by the way. Like
Yeah.
Pete Sampson, Tim McMurray, Mick Fortuna or Mick Tuna. We got Sean McDonough, Greg McElroy, Molly McGrath, and Taylor McGregor. Like, it's the luck of the Irish is certainly buzzing for that one. But that was like the unofficial playoff broadcast group. I mean, when's the last time Notre Dame lost a game with that broadcast group? It's been a while.
Yeah, it has been a minute. I think we're going to overlook the fact that McDonough and McElroy called the national title game on radio, because on
television.
All due respect to our radio brethren, but we're gonna have to go with TV is the law of the land there. I mean, anything like defensively, the matchup with Carson Beck, I didn't watch a ton of Beck last year. I know he's coming off the injury. I think it's more significant that like he'll actually have a run game again. Like Georgia's running game was terrible last year. I think they were 13th in the SEC in rushing yards per game, which is kind of hard to get your head around. But how do like Beck? Like, what are you expecting to see? New place, new receivers, been injured for a while. Like, what's that going to look like?
I've kind of talked myself into Carson Beck being a little bit underrated. You look at some of the numbers, especially 2 years ago. Now he had Brock Bowers and Lad McConkey to throw to, which is pretty nice. But the receivers, look, for Georgia standards, were bad last year, and the running backs were not great either, and they were hurt. But it is worth noting this is a whole new receiver core, right? I mean, you look at what they had a year ago, and if you pull out your Phil Steele, the first guy that's bolded is Lofton, who had 9 catches for 150 yards. So it's everything's new there. Now you mentioned Matt Shannon Dawson. He's a very good offensive coordinator, and Cam Ward lit up the world in the first game of the season a year ago against Florida. I don't expect that to happen. I think Notre Dame's defense is significantly better than Florida's was a year ago, and Cam Ward was the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft. But look, I think Carson Beck's going to make some plays. I think this is a guy that I believe he has 27 career starts at the quarterback position. So this is a guy that is a veteran and has played a lot of big time college football games. I am curious about the running back situation because you lose Damian Martinez, who was, over 1,000-yard rusher, but Fletcher's a pretty good running back. So, look, I don't know if it was gamesmanship or if you believe what Marcus Freeman said, if he said that the interior D-line stepped up as much as they did and he wasn't BSing, okay, game on. But, we saw times last year where the interior of the defensive line was an issue, and that certainly concerns me in seeing if Miami can take advantage of it. But if Freeman was saying the truth, then giddy up. This defensive line was supposed to be an issue and could be a strength.
Before we get to questions, I want to remind everyone to subscribe to The Independent on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, and continue to tune in and subscribe on YouTube as well. Thank you for all who are tuning in right now live. And I want to thank our sponsors, Obvious Shirts, OBVIOUSSHIRTS.com. Restocked independent merch up there now. You can get it. We've got some new season items coming as well. And we're all open for suggestions, trash talk, quotes, you name it. We got a few that are going to come out here in the next couple of weeks, but please leave a comment, reach out to us if there's something that catches your eye. We'd love to get it on a t-shirt. Thank you to our friends at Obvious Shirts. And thank you to our new sponsor, DraftKings. The rivalries, the marching bands, the upsets. Saturdays just got way more fun. College football is back. You think you know the game? Put your knowledge to the test with DraftKings Sportsbook and turn your picks into big payouts. With live betting, rivalry week, odds boosts, and more, DraftKings Sportsbook has everything you need to own every Saturday. They've got Notre Dame and Miami up there right now. It is a 2.5-point spread in favor of Notre Dame. The over-under is down to 49.5. You can bet that there on DraftKings. And here's something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code INDEPENDENT. That's code INDEPENDENT. For new customers, get $300 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. In partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, fees may apply in Illinois. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets require 7 days after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
And thanks to our friends at Roback. As always, you can go to roback.com for 20% off your first order with the promo code IRISH. That's RHOBACK.com. Hoodies, polos, tees, shorts, pants, everything you need for tailgating, your outdoor lifestyle. Roback.com, 20% off your first order with the promo code Irish. Matt, what do we got for questions?
There is a lot. Kimmy Beavers, is there a score prediction with reports saying Jeremiah Love is pissed off? Could the score be something like 24-10 or 7? Do we need reports to say he's pissed off? I think he put that out there himself in the Players Tribune.
I think
do you want to do score predictions right now, or do you want to save that for the end? Because we got to do season predictions as well.
Generally smoldering. I'm not sure that. And look, I do think that I asked him about it, and I didn't really get into this in the profile I did of him, but the Ohio State game did piss him off. I know he in the Players Tribune he talked about he's injured, and I know he said that the game kind of got out of hand, so they're not running the ball a whole lot. But still, 6 touches for 8 yards is not good. And frankly, his playoff, if you, not to be an Indiana fan here, but if you take out the 90-yard touchdown and you take out the 2-yard run against Penn State, I think he averaged less than 3 yards per carry in the CFP. So he's both a Heisman contender and somebody with a lot to prove. I think that's probably a pretty volatile mix in a great way for Notre Dame. But yeah, I would think Love will play really well and very angry on Sunday night.
Works for me. If he's angry, upset, I feel like that is going to be a good thing for Notre Dame. So I think the defensive line for Miami might be their strength. Ruben Bain is a beast. They're coming off the edge. So that's going to be a fun matchup to see. We saw a not 100% Jeremiah Love going against a not 100% Abdul Carter. Both these guys are going to be 100%. So it could be a lot of fun to see that matchup on Sunday.
One more from Cayman Beavers. Based on his 33 trucking, that was 2017, right? As well.
Yes.
Background where the Heisman campaign went to die, Miami, unfortunately. But 33 trucking, another Jeremiah Love question. Pete, I'll let you take this one since you just profiled him. Why was Jeremiah Love not a captain?
Yes, you can definitely read my story at The Athletic for a detailed explanation. But Jeremiah Love is he knows who he is. He is not going to put himself in a position where he doesn't believe hey, I should be doing this, or he told me he looked at the captains last year and was like, that's not me. I'm not Jack Kaiser. I'm not Riley Mills. I'm not Xavier Watts. I'm not vocal like that. So, and he's if I know I'm not 100% behind something, I'm just not going to do it. And he's cool with that. I think Notre Dame's fine with that too. Yeah, he's just a really fascinating individual. With some of just his peculiarities and knowing himself. So yeah, a plug for my story on Jeremiah Love on The Athletic this week. I think if you want to get to know him, it's probably as detailed a look inside of his mind as you're going to find.
Archer 00 Arrow, lots of factors to this game and not a lot of talk about special teams. Any idea which team has the edge here? It's interesting, right? I mean, no one felt good about this unit going into the playoff last year because it was, I think, statistically speaking, the worst field goal unit in the country. But I think that had an asterisk with it. Mitch Jeter was not fully healthy through much of the regular season. And look, one game did come down to his leg, and he delivered. So different now. Noah Burnett, kicker, not Noah Grubbs, as Marcus Freeman accidentally said during his press conference, and may or may not have gotten slapped on the wrist by the NCAA for that. But I'm as interested in the returns teams just because you look at who they have listed, right? Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price as their kick returners. Jordan Faison as a punt returner. These are top level guys. And you hear all the time about how the best teams have best players who are not, too big or too selfish to not play special teams. Does that bear itself out Sunday night or at some point in the season?
It's pretty wild when you think back to last year and what a nightmare it was for about 6-7 games with Mitch Jeter. But Mitch Jeter hit the clutch kicks against A&M, hit the clutch kicks against Penn State, obviously. He hit that big field goal against Indiana. I mean, I remember when they trotted him out there. Was that a 50-yarder or 49-yarder?
Right before halftime?
Yeah. And I was I looked at the person I was watching the game with. I'm like, well, this is dumb. He's going to miss this. And he buried it. So I'm like, okay. Noah Burnett gives me significant heartburn right now because all the reports from camp that you guys have found out is it's not been that clean of an operation. I am excited, though, about the kick return game. The fact that Jeremiah Love is listed there, and it's what was the line in The Water Boy from, what was it, Dan Fouts and Brent Musburger? It's the Bourbon Bowl. You can't hold anything back. Like, this is the Miami game. You can't hold anything back. So to see Jeremiah Love maybe listed as a kick returner is pretty exciting. But man, you think back to the A&M game, and Mitch Jeter hit some important kicks in that one, and we'll see it. But man, Noah Burnett doesn't give me all that much confidence. Now, it is worth noting, I'm no kicking aficionado, but I think the guy that Miami got was great like 2 years ago, but not great last year. Bert Auburn from Texas. So maybe there's a push when it comes to the kicking. I don't know. But I certainly am a little concerned, at least from the reports that came out of camp regarding Burnett.
I think this would be a deep cut on Miami's roster, but it's worth knowing. Keelan Marion is a transfer they got from BYU this spring. He returned 2 kickoffs for touchdowns for the Cougars last year. He was an All-American in that department. And I get it. Like, Jaden Harrison was an All-American coming in for Marshall in the kickoff return game. Didn't do anything until he really did something, and it changed the game. So Keelan Marion, worth keeping an eye on this is like, if you're Notre Dame, whether it's Eric Schmidt or Marcello Diamidi, I think will handle the kickoff duties. Just boot it out of the end zone. Like, make kickoffs boring. That's the best way to do it, because Miami does have somebody who knows how to hurt you if he gets the ball in his hands.
All right, Tim, you mentioned Musburger. Go ahead and plug your interview with him last week, because it was actually one of the more fun podcasts with everything from Little League World Series tales to a lot of good Lou Holtz and Eric Parseghian tales as well.
Yeah, if Notre Dame fans want to hear some stories from Brent Musburger regarding Notre Dame in different eras, make sure to check that out. It was an episode last week. Had the great chance to sit down with Brent Musburger. I'll do the Cliff Notes version here. He said he's still mad at Notre Dame for stealing Ara Parseghian because he is a Northwestern alum. He told me the only time that he's ever been kicked out of a production meeting was when Ara Parseghian kicked him out to talk one-on-one with Lou Holtz when he was still the coach of Minnesota. So do with that what you will. He also told me that Brian Kelly, about a month after the national championship, apparently called him and thanked him because of the comments he said about Catherine Webb, that it took some heat off of Brian Kelly. So, and lastly, he said Jimmy Johnson still was mad at him because I guess he and Pat Hayden agreed that it was an incomplete pass against Miami in 1988, and Jimmy Johnson still says it was a catch.
So I miss Brent because he's one of a kind. We had him on the previous iteration of the show, thanks to you. And he always brings up the Catherine Webb thing unprompted. It's like we weren't going to go there. And we ended up going viral that episode. Like, New York Post picked it up. All these people like, Musburger does not apologize. I think he even decried the woke media that killed him for it. But he told us I don't know if he called Brian or what, but he made a similar reference of, next time I saw Brian Kelly, I said, you owe me one. I took all the heat off you for a terrible performance that game because everyone was talking about me. But yeah, he's a gem. I do miss him.
It still has the storytelling ability is just unbelievable. So, and he's still with it now, man. He's like, is this the best week one we've ever seen? And I could attest. I think it is. And obviously Notre Dame Miami is being on Sunday nights. This Sunday night is going to be add to it,
Knowing what I know about him now, as far as like the gambling stuff, the fact he was the voice of the Little League World Series for so long, it's so funny in retrospect.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it is, you think back to the 88 game and he was there, and he tells the story that the kid that made it, the shirts handed him one as he walked into the stadium back in 88.
Pat Walsh will be quoted in The Athletic tomorrow.
Okay. I know Pat. I did a story on this in 16, I think, at ESPN. Back to football. Cayman Beavers. Carr is the best quarterback we've had since when? 07 Clausen? I think you're trying to say like traditional quarterback, because I thought Riley Leonard was phenomenal last year. Like, I know did he get cut? I don't know. Maybe he made it.
No, he made it.
He did? Okay. He's probably not going to start. Well, maybe he will because the Colts are a train wreck, but he's not like the prototype of like national championship winning quarterback, yada, yada, yada. But I thought he was the perfect quarterback at the perfect time for Notre Dame last year. And I thought, talk about a guy who literally left it all out on the field and got the absolute most out of his college ability. I think Riley Leonard. But I understand your point. Probably since 07 Clausen. I mean, I wouldn't completely overlook 15 Kaiser. I think Kaiser benefited from all that was around him that year. But Pete, you covered the good old Jimmy era. You have some thoughts on that?
Clausen was phenomenal at the end. Not 07 Clausen. We're talking about 09 Clausen, just for the record here. But like, the Kaiser thing is interesting because I think this is the best collection of offensive skill talent Notre Dame's had since 15. So how does Carr manage that? I think it's a great problem or riddle for him to solve because there's a lot of right answers out there. He just needs to pick the best right answer. So that's fascinating to me.
We'll get to more questions, but Tim, I know you've got another obligation. We got to get at least your game prediction and your season prediction. And where can we find you post game, like in the stadium or outside the stadium or on the streets of South Beach for a post game pod?
I think it depends on the result. That's where
you'll be lost on the F1 track.
Yeah. Oh man, I got totally lost after the Penn State game, but at least I was happy walking out of that stadium. I would say for the game, I will go. I got to remember what bet I made, so I went under 53.5. So I got to make sure I get my bet home here. I'll say it's 26-24 Notre Dame. I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be tight. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a little lower scoring than that.
2 missed extra points. That's where you're.
I'm thinking maybe an extra point in there. I don't know. So yeah, I'll go Notre Dame wins very close. It's going to be tight the whole way. I think it's going to be a classic. I think it's going to be a bit of a tug of war. I think it might be low scoring in the first half. So maybe look first half under. I think that's like 24.5 or something like that. And then season, I think they'll lose a game. I don't know if they'll lose 2. The schedule does have some unique landmines. Pete, when you were on my podcast, we talked about the NC State game. That is a classic trap spot, right? Before USC, after Boise State. The Arkansas game I know has been talked up a lot. I don't think Arkansas is going to be very good this year. I think they have the potential of kind of falling apart. It's going to be hot. I think of the fact it's an early game. I'll say 11-1, but my caveat would be more likely 10-2 than 12-0. So I'll say 11-1, but I would say 10-2 much more likely than going 12-0. I think this team is better skill-wise than last year. Question marks, obviously, from a quarterback standpoint is, can this team be consistent? But lastly, I'll say this. I do think there is national championship upside with this team. And I didn't think Notre Dame could make the national title a year ago. I thought they'd lose to Georgia. They obviously didn't. What a game it was. But I think if CJ Carr hits, and to the last question that was asked, best quarterback since, I think he's the best pro prospect coming into Notre Dame since Jimmy Clausen, right? So if he hits with the talent that's around him and the uncertainty this year in college football, I actually do believe there is a ceiling of national championship for this team. And you guys know me. I don't think I've ever uttered those words before, but I think if CJ Carr hits and this team stays healthy, they dealt with a lot of injuries last year, and people don't bring that up all that often. Maybe Notre Dame fans do, but I think there's a ceiling where Notre Dame could win the national championship, but I do not think they'll have an unblemished regular season. As we saw last year, it doesn't matter if you have a loss or 2 on your ledger. You could lose as a 20-point favorite in the last game of the season and win the national championship, as we saw last year.
26-24, you got to middle that if you already got the under 54.5, right? And now it's 49.5.
Yeah. I could try. I mean, I do have a 4-point window here. Yeah.
We'll let you out of here on that. P and I got a few more things to get off our chest, but thanks as always to Tim Murray for joining us. Thanks for bringing some hair to this conversation.
Hey, if you, by the way, I'm at one Tim Murray. And if you've got some good tailgate situations, hit me up. Your boy will be wandering around. So, if we got some good tailgate opportunities, let me know. So, hit me up on Twitter at one Tim Murray.
Our eyes and ears in the parking lots. Thanks, Tim.
See you guys.
Pete?
Prediction wise, I like it similar to Tim. Like I think both teams score in the 20s. I like Notre Dame, more of maybe a 28-24 or a 20, maybe 27-21. But I think Notre Dame is the better program. Miami is the better quarterback. I also think, all right, it's a close game in the fourth quarter. Who do you trust, Marcus Freeman or Mario Cristobal? That's a blowout. For Notre Dame. So I like all the dynamics of Notre Dame winning a close game. I said this earlier in the show. I think CJ Carr will throw at least one interception. I think he could throw two, and I think that Notre Dame could be fine. I think he will handle it. I think the team will handle it just fine. And yeah, the environment, as much as we talk about 2017, I know I've talked and written about it a ton. I just don't. It's not going to meet that level of fervor in Hard Rock Stadium, which also helps Notre Dame a lot. So I'll settle at 20. We'll go 27-23 Notre Dame. A slight cover, but
Slide over.
Not the rock fight of last year, but not like this, textbook bit of glowing offense either. I think that, new quarterback for Notre Dame, great secondary for Notre Dame. That probably keeps the scoring down on both sides.
I've gone back and forth on this so much throughout the offseason, right? Notre Dame's going to win. You know what? Miami's probably going to be better, at least on defense. We don't even know who the quarterback's going to be. And his first game's going to be at Miami. This could be terrible. And now, I don't know, I've settled into a fairly comfortable rhythm of having a feel for this game, which means I'm going to be completely wrong. But I'll take Notre Dame 24-14. I think it'll be similar to A&M in the sense of 14-14 or something late. And okay. I just think Notre Dame is deeper. They're clearly conditioned enough, or at least they were last year, in these elements. They're not going to be intimidated, presumably, with a new quarterback under the bright lights. And I think they make a few plays. I think it's a 24-14 game that's probably closer than the score indicates. Again, much like A&M last year, which I think was 23-13. So I'll roll with the Irish in this one. I've gone from when the schedule came out to thinking, okay, they'll probably beat A&M because they're at home. But Miami I'm worried about. So now, the more I look at A&M, that's the game that scares me a lot more as far as personnel and whatnot.
And that's if it's Freeman versus Elko in a close game, I think Elko's big time coach.
He's great.
Yeah, Cristobal, I don't have similar sentiments for at all.
Elko, I think Cristobal is a phenomenal program builder, and the Saturdays are lacking. And Elko, to me, I like to call him your favorite football coach's favorite football coach, because anytime you talk to another coach and you ask about guys to watch, from the day he was at Wake Forest, it was Mike Elko. We love that guy. He's awesome. Why hasn't he gotten a job yet? And we're seeing it now with him at A&M. But we will get to that in a couple of weeks. Want to get a few more questions in here before we get our season predictions in. Juan Jose Rodriguez, friend of the show. Hope to see you down there in Miami, buddy. Biggest surprise to each of you when you first saw the game week depth chart? For me, it was the two Ors. I mean, you rarely see an Or at right guard or really anywhere on the offensive line. And then the Or at the slot, just because you just naturally think of Jaden Greathouse as, WR1. I don't put too much into wide receiver depth charts because they rotate so much, but the two Ors is what, caught my eye.
That one actually was not a surprise to me at all, talking to people around Notre Dame. It would be difficult to overstate how much the coaches like Will Pauling. They absolutely adore him. And that to the point that they went to Greathouse and was just look, you got real competition here, which is not something I expected at all when Will Pauling showed up, especially on the heels of how Greathouse finished last season. So that wasn't that big of a surprise to me at all. I don't know if it's a surprise, but we hadn't seen well, actually, no, I know what the surprise is. Jordan Mattel is on it. I'm shocked with a pectoral injury to come all the way back from that this quickly and be available against Miami. We'll see what that looks like. But that Botello being available, maybe it doesn't have a whole lot to do with Miami, but I think it definitely looks good for A&M moving forward, that you're going to be able to reintegrate him into the rotation. And Notre Dame has a phenomenal defensive end depth chart when it's at full strength.
Asaph, thanks for joining the show as always. Let me see. I just had one here for MVP of the game as well. There are a lot in here. I just lost it. But it was who's going to be the MVP defensively for Notre Dame in this game. And I do have an answer to that as soon as I find the question here. Harley the Hippo. How can I overlook that? Leonard Moore. I think he's going to have a field day with those receivers. It's going to make life very tough for Carson Beck. I think the defensive line will make life tough as well. But we've seen Beck be great when he's got great people to throw the ball to. We've seen him not be great when he doesn't. I think it's probably a bit of a middle ground here, but I think against this Notre Dame secondary, it's going to be tough for him to consistently move the ball down the field.
Leonard Moore would have been my first choice, and then I would have a toss-up between Traore and Young because I think one of the two are going to make a play that probably changes the game in Notre Dame's favor at some point.
Do you want to get to your season prediction?
Yeah, I'm not as bullish on the final record as Tim is. I think they'll go 10-2. I think they'll split the first game, A&M and Miami. Although I'm predicting Notre Dame to beat Miami, so losing at A&M, I guess. And then there's always we're not that far away from Northern Illinois, Marshall, Stanford, that stuff. Like there could be a hiccup along the way, and the schedule's better, so it's like having a hiccup against NC State is not the same thing as Northern Illinois. But I am similarly bullish to Murray on the long-term outlook into December and January because I think this team has a real shot to do the whole thing. And I didn't think that they did last year. They got all the way to the end. They gave a great account of themselves. But I think that this team can do the same thing. I think this team might be able to go one step further than last year. It's going to take some fortune along the way. That's how football is. But by betting on Carr now, I think the payoff is in December and January, and this team has a chance to do it. I think that my last point on this is I don't know if Notre Dame went into the Georgia game fully believing they were going to win or should win. They certainly thought they could win. After the Georgia Penn State experiences, and I think even the Ohio State experience to a certain extent, this is as confident as Notre Dame football has been in itself in a generation. And I don't think that's going to change if they lose to Miami. I don't think it's going to change if they lose to A&M. But I just that matters. And I think that's something that's going to be durable and carry Notre Dame probably a long way into the CFP.
I agree with everything you just said. Now I would, again, stepping back big picture, the same way they were confident after being A&M and they led up against Northern Illinois, is
True.
that have a cumulative effect season-wise after all they did last year? I don't think so, but that's something I would be on guard for. And it's interesting. Marcus Freeman went on the pivot this week with Ryan Clark, and there's obviously a lot of talk about last year because Clark's kid was on the team, but Freeman said something to the effect of, the Georgia game. I had to remind them, just because they're in the SEC doesn't mean we got to fear them, right? Like they're human beings who play football just like you do. And again, that's easy to say beforehand. The proof was in the pudding. And I think that run just eliminated any questions you had about Marcus Freeman or Notre Dame football, that they can't deliver on the big stage and yada, yada, yada. That's all done. If they lose, when they lose, because I don't think anyone's going 16-0 this year, they're just going to get beat. I got 11-1, but I think they start 2-0. I'm not bold enough to be they're going to lose to Boise State or Arkansas, maybe Pitt. I do think they lose a game in there. I would be absolutely shocked if this is not a playoff team, which I honestly don't think is saying that much. I don't think it's a huge ask to be a top 12 team this day and age if you're a blue blood. But, I've got my season-long prediction column coming out later on the Inside Zone. Please subscribe. And I was going back at last year's, and for my 3 bold predictions throughout the college football season, one was Notre Dame will go 12-0. Felt really good about it after A&M, and then I didn't. But I look back, I didn't remember this. I had them losing to Ohio State in the playoff, albeit in the semis, and I had Ohio State winning it all. I've got them in the quarters this year as the 5 seed, 11-1. With no buys, I still think it's hard to imagine a world where the losers of the Big Ten and SEC championship game are not the top 4 teams, even after those losses. in the committee's eyes. Now, that could certainly not play out that way. But like, it's really in a good way. Like, there's more chaos than ever in college football, which means more teams have a chance to win it all, and it's harder than ever to predict, right? Like, I went through one scenario where I filled out a bracket, and I'm like, wait a minute, if this were to happen, Penn State would play Ohio State 3 times in a year. Is that really going to happen? Probably not. So like it's interesting. Like, I think the SEC's got 4 teams that have legitimate national title hopes. I think the Big Ten is 3. I think Notre Dame's in that mix. Like, I agree with what Tim said, right? Like, they could go 10-2, but it wouldn't shock me if they won the national title. And I don't know when the last time I could say that at the outside of a season is, right? The 4-team era.
I don't think I've ever said that.
Right.
I don't think in 25 years ever at the beginning of the season, like, it really wouldn't surprise me if Notre Dame won a national championship.
Yeah, I thought they had a chance last year, but I didn't really fully believe it.
No.
But I would, how many teams could you name right now where if I told you they won the national title this year, you'd say, yeah, I could believe that. I mean, it's not double digits, but it's close to it.
Yeah, 7 or 8, probably.
Right. I mean,
Notre Dame's in that group.
The 3 Big Tens I mentioned, the 4 SECs I mentioned, Notre Dame. My 9 seed is Miami. I don't think they're going to win a national title, but like, that's a team that should make the playoff with that roster.
I mean, Clemson's in there.
Clemson's in there, yes. I'm not as high on them as everyone else is, but they're in there. Yeah, it's exciting. It makes it really hard to predict. Like, I got Notre Dame losing in the quarterfinals. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if they prove me wrong. But I think they win these first 2. And again, subject to change. If they lose to Miami or sloppy Miami, maybe I'll have a different feeling about A&M. That's a long time from now in college football years. But yeah, I think this is a roster that is capable of going all the way. Because again, the one thing I firmly believed and I thought held true last year was depth and buy-in is going to matter more than ever. And I think there's more of that at Notre Dame than there are most, if not every other program in the country. And this is a deeper team than last year, which is also going to matter when you look at playing into mid to late January. So how's that bear itself out? We'll see. But I absolutely think, whether it was subconsciously or not, that was part of the decision when it came to quarterback. Because even Marcus Freeman did not have, I don't want to say not a good answer for it, but he more or less said it was a gut decision, right? Which you don't hear coaches say, because I think you get a lot of blowback if that decision ends up being wrong. And I don't think it'll be wrong, but I do think there'll be some bumps in the road. And as long as they have a process and they stick to it, things will turn out all right for them in the end.
I agree. All right. Well, on that note, unless you got anything else, we can wrap up there with our preseason episode of The Independent.
Well, there's one. I just want to correct it. Well, Anthony Marzano has like 20 comments here at the bottom. I got to the bottom one. Do you have any Big 12 teams? Well, yeah, they have to make the playoff. Well, they don't have to. I guess, they could be left out if 2 group of 5 jumped them. Arizona State, an aberration for the Big 12. I don't think it's aberration. I think that's the hardest conference to predict. I still have Kansas State. I think perfect buy low opportunity with them because it's going to be a jumbled mess, and I still like their long-term prospects.
I think Matt Campbell might finally prove me right, so we'll see. That's the Big 12 is interesting.
As long as Avery Johnson's father and brother can keep their hands clean on American soil the rest of the year, I feel pretty good about Kansas State, but that is to be determined.
Yes. All right. Well, we started the show with a lot of Week 0 talk. We're ending the show with Week 0 talk. In between a lot of Notre Dame stuff, and Matt and I will be back. We'll both be down there. We'll be doing a show post game as usual. We consider that a public service and your therapy for Sunday morning. If you can't join us live, very late Saturday night, but if you can,
Sunday night, and it's an off day Monday. No.
Oh excuses. Yeah, Sunday night. Sorry, a little off this week, but and then we'll be doing, as I said at the top of the show, and Matt said too, Wednesday noon Eastern. That will be our regular sort of live midweek preview slot. So hopefully you can come join us then too.
I have one more thing I want to add, as long as I'm promoting my predictions column for tomorrow. For my one of my 3 bold predictions, I have Lincoln Riley becomes the head coach at Texas Tech, his alma mater. So maybe you'll get I think there's too much money at Texas Tech where there will be consequences if they continue to not be great. And I think that's the perfect marriage for everybody, because USC probably wants to get rid of him and not pay the buyout, and Texas Tech has got more money than they can count. But also Jennifer Cohen, the AD at USC, told the LA Times, Ryan Karche, I think yesterday, they've extended an offer, a multi-year offer, to extend the series with Notre Dame, which I half expected once the SEC announced they were going to 9 games, but we're still going to play a non-conference, a power conference, non-conference game. So I think things are trending in the right direction for that rivalry staying.
I've heard the same. I wouldn't be surprised if multi-year it meant 2, but we'll see. But yeah, there is some optimism that this game against USC in October won't be the last one. So on that note, he's Matt. I'm Pete. Thanks for being with us on our preseason Miami preview episode of The Independent.